All right. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining our city council meeting, your city council meeting of August 18, 2025. Before we get started with the agenda, if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. All right. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and if Claire, if you'll go ahead and do a roll call for us, please.
Happy to. Good evening. Beginning with Anderson. Becerra. Absent.
Yeah, I'm thinking she must be, and I do see that Counselor Anderson has joined online. Do you know about?
No,
Okay.
Sarah, it's going to be a few minutes late.
Okay. All right. I'll let you know when Counselor Becerra gets here if you don't see her as well, Claire.
Excellent. Campbell.
Here.
Carlino.
Present.
Farmer.
Present.
Jones.
Present.
Jordan.
Absent this evening.
Nelson.
Present.
Nugent.
Present.
Savage.
Present.
Cheryl.
Present.
And Masika.
Present.
All right, and we do have a quorum.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you very much. And approval of the minutes. We have minutes from August 11th, 2025. Any council questions or changes to those minutes? Okay. I'm not seeing any of those minutes will then remain as submitted. Thank you. For our committee meeting, your committee meetings, I should say, this Wednesday, pretty light schedule compared to how they have been recently. Any changes to the committee schedule, Ms. Trimble?
No, just the 3 meetings and the late start.
Great. All right. So noted, our committee meetings this Wednesday do have a late start starting at 12 p.m. Okay. All right. Before we get started with our neighborhood council presentation, I'll note that we do have a slight adjustment to our meeting agenda, and it's on item 5.3 as it relates to one element of our budget. 5.3, 5.2, Ms. Trimble, I think is, nope, it's 5.3. Nope, it's 5.2. There is a section of 5.2, the last recommended motion as it relates to the Downtown Business Improvement District. We just got the numbers from the Department of Revenue prior to coming into this meeting, and so we want to be able to review that, get that information to you. So we will push for the adoption of that particular motion for next Monday on the 25th. So this happened last year too. I don't know if you remember that, but it's not anything that's within our control. It's the Downtown Business Improvement District, which is in the purview of City Council, but it's not any budget decisions that you make. It's kind of a weird jurisdictional thing. So we will just note for the agenda that change will be made. All right. Coming back then to our special presentations and proclamations this evening, we do have a neighborhood council update. We have the Rose Park leadership team here. And so whenever you're ready, come on up to the microphone. Please bring that microphone close to you so we can hear you, and I'll go ahead and turn that on now.
There, how's that?
That's perfect.
Okay, perfect. I'm Audrey Hayes from the Rose Park Leadership Team. We held our annual general meeting on Sunday, May 18th, which is a change from having it in September. So that was new for us. Despite the cold and wet weather, though, we had a great turnout with over 50 neighbors in attendance. Attendees enjoyed free ice cream from Baskin and Robbins in our neighborhood. And we had the opportunity to learn about the Rose Park Master Plan from Garrick Swanson. Informational tables were hosted by a variety of local organizations, including the Rose Society, Prost, Urban Forestry, Public Works and Mobility, and the Our Missoula Code Reform Initiative. The team conducted a survey to gather community feedback on the Slant Street Gateway, the plot of land which is across the street from the fire station on Mount. The main focus was to gauge interest in installing a fit lot at the site, but overall neighborhood sentiment and enthusiasm was low for it. The team also heard from the Stormwater Division about potential plans to convert the space into a stormwater garden. However, funding for that project appears unlikely. Discussions and exploration of other possibilities for the space are ongoing. Team members are collaborating with Parks and Recreation on enhancements to the Rose Park World War II Memorial Garden, and we're looking forward to the upcoming improvements. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Hayes? Yes, Councillor Jones.
Just a quick comment. I just want to say thanks for all your work with the leadership team, and I appreciate that you guys lean in on not only Rose Park, but also the chunk of land across from the fire station on Mount. It's just something great's going to happen there eventually.
I know.
And we're going to get there. And
We're going to get there.
I appreciate you guys
We are.
keeping at it. So thanks
We
a
are.
lot.
Thank you.
All right, I'll echo those sentiments. Thank you very much, Ms. Hayes. Thank you for being part of your community and taking part with the neighborhood council, being part of local government. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, that wraps up our neighborhood council updates, and we don't have any other special presentations or proclamations this evening. So we're going to jump right into the one and only public hearing we have, which is the fiscal year 26 budget. So there's a whole long list of different motions that have already been put on the floor when we opened the public hearing on April 4th. As you'll know, when we had our meeting, city council meeting, and then as well as some committee meetings, the Department of Revenue numbers have been released in terms of taxable values. So we've got all those updates for you this evening, and we'll start with a staff presentation, and that will be Chief Administrative Officer Dale Bickle will kick this off for us.
Thank you, Mayor. For the record, Dale Bickle, City's Chief Administrative Officer. I'm going to provide an update to the public hearing presentation that I gave the previous 2 Mondays. And as the Mayor said, really the significant changes are that, and they're significant in relative term. There are, as we have calculated and revised numbers, in particularly on the revenue side, there are going to be a couple of changes that I will highlight for you tonight. So I'm going to share my screen. So once again, this budget was really committed to financial stability, responsible investment, and responsive public service. Mayor is working on implementing a cost of living lens throughout the organization, and that was visible in FY25, where we had $2.4 million of savings from the original budget. This budget will still advance our housing-focused model. We're providing for fair and competitive police compensation, funding additional street maintenance position using existing gas tax resources, and will provide for a number of high-profile infrastructure projects. Just to highlight some of the budget changes, and I'll get these in some of these changes a little bit more later in the presentation. But we did have, and I reported last Monday, the addition of the police digital analysis tool for digital forensics. A $6,800 increase that will be paid from general fund balance. One change since last Monday is after the fee revenue presentation and some additional calculations on our tax revenues, we were able to adjust our tax levies. So we are able to, we lost a little ground, but on our budget deficit from 2.4 million that the mayor reported when the budget was presented at $2.5 million. So, but we're still making meaningful progress on our budget deficit. So a good $500,000 improvement there. And then as a result of council amendments, there weren't any other approved changes to the budget. Budget strategies, we talked a lot about innovations and some of the planning resources we've done. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that tonight. And again, is highlighting this same community investment program projects that are contemplated for fiscal year 26, and that list there. I won't repeat those tonight, though we are very close on figuring out our revenues related to what's available for remediation at the Engen building, and we're looking forward to bringing that forward to council in the near future. To look at the budget in the big picture, this is expenditures in the general fund at $88.1 million, and the allocation related to the entire general fund budget. And you can see police and fire are the major departments inside the general fund. Then you add the other tax-funded activities, including the road district, the park district, the new voter-approved fire levy, and the conservation lands and maintenance levy. You can see the allocation of those, and you see Parks and Rec come in and the fire levy come in there. This total budget here of tax-related activities is $121 million. And then this final is our entire operating budget, totaling $200 million. And this brings in our non-tax and fee-related activities, primarily our utilities in water, wastewater, and stormwater, brings in the Missoula Redevelopment Agency, brings in the Parking Commission. So you can see the allocation of where our activities are of that $200 million operating budget. And then talking a little bit about general fund financial condition. First, talk about fund balance, and I've talked about our fund balance goal of getting to 7% of ongoing revenues. So in FY25, we finished fund balance with 1.4 million higher than originally expected, and that was related to those expenditure savings that I talked about. For FY26, we're estimating fund balance to be projected to be a $3.4 million budget, so meaningful progress towards our cash reserve policy. So we're going from, the adopted budget was 2 million in FY25, and that's being able to be increased to 3.4. So we're still about $2 million short of our targets, but that's really good. That's really meaningful progress. And as I mentioned earlier, the structural deficit is improving from $3 million at the end of FY25 to $2.5 million in FY26. So what's that mean for property tax impact? This budget is a 3.39% increase in property tax funds, including all of our levies, including the fire levy, general fund, road, and park districts. Now that 3.39 is a little bit different than what we had. We were at 3.5%, and that's because we were partially was continuing our calculation related taxes, and also being able to add in some other additional fee revenue that allowed us to lower our mills. Now that 3.39% represents the increase in taxes that the city of Missoula will receive from existing taxpayers, and however, because of the tax law changes, most residential property owners will see a decrease in city taxes. And a little more on that is, this is the slide that is just slightly just $1 different than what was presented last Monday. But the median value home, and by market value in this context, I mean the assessed market value as determined by the State Department of Revenue, we'll see we'll see lower city taxes by approximately $257. So this is and this is just the city portion of property taxes too. So the city represents about a third of the total typical tax bill And of that third, there should be a $257 decrease. You can see in the table there that the city tax, and that's represents about a 14.3% decrease. And based on whatever property owner's taxable value is, those will change. Typically, homes under the median will see a larger tax increase, and homes above the median will see a smaller tax increase. And then this is the distribution of that 3.39% tax increase, which is at $2.4 million. I do want to provide a clarification related to that number. When the mayor first presented the executive budget, this number was $4.4 million. The two things occurred. One, our numbers from the Department of Revenue weren't as strong. The other piece is that I reported the wrong number. The $4.4 million was our original estimate, but that was all property tax revenues, all in, not what our definition of tax increase is, which is that portion that would be paid by new taxpayers. It failed to take out the portion that would be paid by new tax base. So, new construction and those things, we typically don't include those numbers as part of the tax increase because it doesn't represent new taxes that existing residents would pay. So with that clarification, this is the allocation of that $2.4 million increase. You can see it's 79.1% of that goes to wages for existing staff, largely our collective bargaining agreements. But you can see the allocation by our significant activities there to the right. Contractual increases, that 14.8%, that represents our inflationary increases such as software contracts, rent, utilities that we're going to incur. So between those two things, that was 95% of the budget. And then we have some of the smaller items listed up there that were part of the mayor's budget in terms of new requests. And then it wasn't just about taxes. We did some innovative things to provide for a level of service with non-tax revenues. So, the big example was, I mentioned earlier, the two street maintenance positions funded by existing gas tax resources. And we're still have an emphasis on meeting city goals. So, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund allocation is in here. And while it was that difficult decision to close the Johnson Street Emergency Shelter, we're working on our shift to a housing-focused approach with those houseless operations specialists and property engagement specialist positions that are going to continue in this budget. And finally, this is the list of resolutions that council would be considering tonight. Fixing the annual appropriations, those are the actual expenses, and the capital improvement program. The resolutions levying the assessments, all except the business improvement district, as we heard earlier. And so that, the first resolution is the expense side. The second resolution is the actual tax assessments, the levies. Third basket of resolutions is the fee resolutions. And then we go into some of the ancillary activities. Street maintenance district number 1, that's what we've always called the Flushing district downtown. It's a smaller district but council adopts the budget. We have all of the street lighting improvement districts under this budget. The board approved mill levy transition that I talked about last committee meeting, where based on legislative change. And in order to mitigate the effects of significant property taxable value reductions, the legislature gave us a one-time opportunity to consider whether we continue with mill levy-based initiatives for fire district and the conservation lands maintenance district, or we move those to a dollar-based system, similar to how the general fund and some of our other levies work. That's what that recommendation is to make that shift to a dollar limitation to be consistent with those and mitigate some risk of future changes in the economy and legislation. And then finally, once you look at all the expenses and you look at all the revenues, the final resolution actually just fixes the mills based on the value that the Department of Revenue provided for us. And so that's the summary of those resolutions. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bickle. Appreciate that update and good news in terms of our overarching property tax increase being less than what we had originally projected. And I want to thank you all for your continued diligence to help us get here. So with that, we'll bring it back to council to see if you have any questions. Any questions about what was just presented? Okay, I'm not seeing it. Yes, Councilor Campbell.
So I'm not sure if this is the right block for this particular question, but I still had some concerns about the remittance from the MRA. Is that another block in this budget process tonight, or are we just taking general questions now, or?
I think, go ahead and ask your questions now, please.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sure.
Still have some concerns about the remittance, the $2 million remittance, not so much the $1 million odd dollars for improvements that you could do by right within URDs, but as I read MRA's budget presentation they gave last May, doing the math on that, there was roughly $9.5 million uncommitted in MRA revenue from all the different URDs there. With you sum it up, it's roughly $9.5 million. So we're looking at taking $2 million plus all the taxing jurisdiction remittances that go along with that, around $6.7 million. So that's about, if I'm doing my math right, this is something, Dale, if you confirm, that's roughly about 70% of the uncommitted MRA money we're talking about. Am I doing the math right on that?
Dale Bickle. Yes, that is, I mean, it's a significant investment by MRA to do these things. We're grateful that it is actually from the uncommitted portion. Now, the one thing that does mitigate that piece of this is that was based on the FY25 numbers. So that didn't account for any of the FY26 revenues that are gonna come into the increment district this year. So that, so their uncommitted balances will increase based on those revenues. But you are right. This is a I mean, it is all about choices and whether, if we, this helps us maintain our balanced general fund budget. If we don't balance that, we're gonna have to take it from a different pot. And so that's the balancing act we took, because it is uncommitted, but it's lost opportunity, it's lost investment in MRA, and then we take that seriously. It's not, I mean, but these are the tough choices.
Follow?
You bet.
Appreciate that. That clarifies that quite a bit for me. Do we have an idea how long it takes MRA? I was looking for Ellen online. I don't see her, but do we have an idea of what it takes time-wise with revenues coming in to a URD to recoup? What would it take to recoup $6.7 million? Would it take more than a year?
Yeah, it's more than a year of essentially what I'll call opportunity cost, because it's uncommitted. And it really depends on the nature of the projects that are coming before too, right? So you do have the revenue side, and then you do have opportunities that come in that are going to require big investments, in some of the ORDs, as we, for example, as we get closer to being able to develop Southgate Crossing, that's a potentially big infrastructure investment. So those are the type of things that are that we have to weigh. Absolutely.
So just to clarify, you feel that the $6.7 million total, it would, I mean, a year from now, if we're, I know this is a hypothetical, I apologize, but if we're talking about a remittance a year from now, let's just say, more than likely we would have less uncommitted reserve in MRA than we do today to work with.
Yeah, I think that's right, Councilor. I think I would expect that. And one of the things that this budget does, and that we have to continue to be diligent about, is the size of the remittance is largely driven by that budget deficit number. And taking $500,000 out of that is a big step into into that, and also being able to build our cash reserves up, because there's really the remittance is keeping us balanced and keeping us headed towards those goals of meeting our financial targets. And so that is part of this, is that the more we can create that financial sustainability in the general fund, the less we will be required to have from MRA at those points. And that's absolutely the goal.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Counselor Vasika.
Yes, thank you. I have a question for Dale. So I'm trying to better understand how permit fees relate to city staffing costs. So if for example, permit fees are designed to cover the cost of processing and oversight, essentially like a pay-to-play system, then why is there a concern about lost revenue when fees aren't raised? I know we went over this with the study, but I'm still having trouble wrapping it around my head. So I guess the main question is, city employee salaries are already funded through property taxes, hence the increase of taxes every year with COLA increases. So I guess where exactly is the financial gap coming from? If you could explain that for me and my constituents too, please.
Yes, great question, Counselor. So it's not necessarily the case that all city staff salaries are funded by taxes. I think the best example I have of that is building inspectors. So the building inspectors are paid from a separate fund, and that's required statutorily to be paid out of a building fund, and the building permit fees that raises pays for those salaries. So there hasn't been previously any property tax investment into the building fund. Now, over the past few years, we actually ended up in really busy permitting times, particularly in heavy commercial permitting times. We generated a surplus in the building fund that we've been using to pay those salaries in lieu of increasing fees a substantial amount, and we were drawing that fund balance down. We're at the point now in FY26 that if we don't increase the fees more, we will actually run that fund into a deficit. And so the fees we have in those budgets, the fees we have that are incorporated in this budget, prevent that from happening. And then the other piece is so that's the example of where it's really restricted into that piece. Now, a lot of the other fees services are, general fund employees that are in, planners in CPDI or engineering staff in public works. Those are both funded both by fees and by taxes. And historically, we've always treated permitting fees and taxes as general revenue. So they go into the bucket, and in the past we've increased fees kind of on an inflationary basis. We did that level of service study or cost of service study in fees so we could provide that information to council on, okay, what's to make a more intentional decision related to the amount of taxes that should pay this versus the amount of fees that should pay this. And while this budget did an inflationary style increase, I think the typical permit will increase 3%. We were able to provide that information to say that we moved the overall allocation between taxes and fees from, and I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but it moved it up from, 31% to 36%, for an example. It was, something like that. But at least, and what we'll endeavor to do over time is to maintain that data and to be able to have during the conversations is this is how much the general fund, say, property taxes is paying for any particular service and permit versus the actual fee for that. So I hope that answered your question, but that was kind of long, but I'm happy to answer any other follow-up questions.
It really did answer my question. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I'm all finished with my questions for now.
All right. Thank you, Counselor. Any other questions? Other questions from City Council this evening? Okay. All right, not seeing any additional questions, then that wraps up our questions from council on this public hearing. And we will open it up for public comment on the fiscal year 2026 budget. So any members of the public here in the audience wish to comment on City of Missoula's fiscal year 26 budget, come on up. I'll just remind folks that we have 3 minutes per public comment, and I'll go ahead and help you track that time now.
Good, I appreciate that. Well, more. I really didn't understand much of this conversation about the budget given by Mr. Bickman. All I do know is our taxes are way too high. Way too high. I think it's fair to say that everybody who was running for mayor or city council last time was for reducing taxes, promised to reduce property tax. Perhaps y'all could give us a lesson in what you actually have done to reduce taxes. If those numbers come out, my taxes are going to increase, I'm not sure, $150,000, $200,000. And I don't want you to send it. I think it's a disgrace how much taxes you are, I started to say stealing, I shouldn't say that. That y'all are taking from the city people, the county, where that applies. What did you do to reduce taxes? Anybody want to say what they did to reduce taxes? Would you like to?
As a reminder, Mr. Moore, this isn't a back and forth, but we're happy to hear your
I
comment.
know it's not, but my point is, can somebody make the point as to how much our taxes are going up? I see all kinds of construction going on around. I've heard the explanation for the last 50, 60 years that we want to grow and do roads, buildings, to increase the tax rate, will save you money. I've heard that, I guess, for the last 70 years. I've never seen it come true. Never seen it come true. And I suspect we'll never see it come true here. I have stated in this body that I think the MRA should be abandoned. It's not needed. Please abandon the MRA. I haven't talked to anybody. I talked to a few. None of them have really understood what TIF was, what it was, where the money came from. Never done. Oh, 1 second.
Thank you for your comments tonight, Mr. Moore. Any other members of the public wishing to make comment on the fiscal year 2026 budget? Okay, not seeing anybody in the room here. How about online? Any members of the public wishing to make comment online in regards to the fiscal year 2026 budget? All right, I don't see any hands raised and no additional comments in the room. That wraps up our public comment for this public hearing. Thank you very much. It brings it back to City Council for any additional questions or any comments that you have. Councilor Cheryl.
Are we going to run through each of the?
Oh, yes, we are. And we are going to go through the main motions. Let's do that. They're on the floor, and before we vote, we definitely want to hear those to be read fully aloud. And we can either hear comments now, or we can do that before a vote's taken. What would you prefer?
I don't have a preference.
Okay, but thank you for making sure that you were clear to the members of the public that we'll read a very lengthy motions that are required by law for
Just
all elements of the
Ready to
budget.
start reading.
Okay.
I'll make my comment now, though, if you're.
Please,
yeah. Really, I want to thank the mayor and staff for getting a budget together, and for keeping while we've dealt with inflation as a nation, keeping the taxes where, at the 3.5% increase. So I appreciate that. I know that this is a very complicated budget. I've said that in the past. I ran a nonprofit and I thought that was a complicated budget. Nothing by comparison. So I just want to thank the mayor and staff for their work on that. I also want to thank this council. We have been working over, this is my 6th budget. We've been working on council over that time to improve the process. And while it seems like it may seem to the public that tonight's gone very quickly and smoothly, which I think the process has overall has been smooth. We spent 2, excuse me, very lengthy meetings on 2 different Wednesdays, going over amendments to the budget and discussing the budget and having presentations on the budget. And prior to that, we had a month of city staff coming in, different departments, talking about the budget and discussing it with the mayor. So we've had lots of presentations. This started, I think, in June. So this is the culmination of many, many months of working on it. The council was able to give the mayor and staff feedback on the budget as we went along, and as departments brought forward their priorities and needs for this coming year. So the budget is a very lengthy process. It is a very cumbersome process, but it's one of the more important things that we do here on council, because as maybe you have said, but I know that our past mayor said as well, is that it really does show what our values are as a community. And I think this budget, while I know it was hard, there were lots of wants and lots of needs. And, some of those didn't, many of the wants did not get funded, and some of the needs too. So we have a very complicated tax system. We have a very broken tax system at a state level, and so it's been complicated. I just want to thank council for going through the process too of bringing their amendments, giving us time to review and discuss and debate those amendments. None of them got cut short. All of them got the time that they needed, because we set aside so much time to do that. And that was a great improvement in our budget process that President Jones started in her tenure in this seat. And we continued to try to improve on, but we were here till 3 a.m. Once, probably 5 years ago, and dealing with amendments. And that is just a terrible way to govern a city, and it is a disservice to our constituents that we all represent. So that happened, and we went, okay, we need to do a better job in the future. And so thank you, Ms. Jones, for starting that process and really getting the changes started a number of years ago. That was not during my tenure, but I was on council, but not as council president. So I have been trying to build on that, and I think we will continue to listen and improve. So with that, whenever you want me to read, I will start my reading, but thanks to everyone to getting us here tonight.
All right. Thank you, President Cheryl. And I too am very grateful for the deliberative and intentional process that has made this a very thoughtful budget process. Councilor Campbell, your hand's raised.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, I just had another question for Dale to start with.
Sure, go right ahead.
Sorry. I know it was presented before, but for public benefit, could you discuss a little bit about the MRA dispersal of the remittance for the other taxing jurisdictions like not talking about what the city gets, but we're talking schools, we're talking county, we're talking Missoula Urban Transportation District. And for the schools, my understanding is it isn't a direct windfall to schools, it goes to the state, is that correct? And then for the rest, we explain those.
Sure. So the remittance by law has to be allocated on the pro rata share of the mill levies that are within those urban renewal districts. And so it is the city, the county, local schools, the state levies, and special districts like urban transportation district. I should highlight that the road and park district, because they're technically assessments. Those aren't part of the remittance. There isn't a remittance back to those. For the most part, those jurisdictions do get the additional revenues like we are getting for our general fund, but it also is allocated amongst our other property tax funds. But for local schools, that's a little bit different. The law doesn't, in most cases, related to their levies, they don't get the windfall from the remittance. They actually have to take it as part of their revenues, and because their property tax limitations are enrollment based, they lower their mills in the following year, in the subsequent year, in order to offset. So it's not, they don't get the revenues, but the taxpayers in those areas do get a little bit of a reduction in mills.
Thank you for that.
All right, absolutely, you bet. Thanks for your question. Any additional questions or comments before we hear the motions read in full? Councillor Vasika, please.
I think Gwen was before me, and is this the time to make my comments on how I'm voting, or is that after the motions are being read?
You can make comments now before your vote, and we'll go ahead and hear Councillor Jones first, and then when you're ready, Councillor Vasika, we'll be ready for your comment.
Okay. Yeah, and first I was just going to clarify this is time for comments. We're doing our big comments now.
We are.
That's what I was going to do. So.
Yeah, please. Big comment away.
All right. Yeah, the budget is very important. I think it is always good to discuss my thoughts and why I'm voting the way I vote on it. But first of all, I just wanted to again draw attention to the fact that I think staff and the mayor have worked really hard to point this in the right direction. And I know how much work goes into this, but to get our reserve fund from 2 million up to 3 million is really, really significant. We still need another couple million to really hit our target, but that movement is so hard to make with our tight budget. And I appreciate that we are going in that direction and getting the structural deficit down from the notes I had were 3.1 million down to 2.4 million. That's really significant also. And that takes a huge amount of work going into the budget, all of the departments leaning in, figuring out where they can be more efficient, where they can make cuts that will not impact the level of service, and really making it work. So this is hard, and I think we're going in the right direction. A lot of times I hear people say, well, we just got to find the money, or we got to be smarter about the budget, or if it's that big of a budget, you can always find the money. And I really think that doesn't equate to reality. I've seen over the years how our revenue does not keep pace with the demand for services. So the creativity, the ingenuity that goes into how we can stretch those dollars to try and keep those service levels intact and keep departments at a good functioning level so that they are not vetted. That's just a ton of work. So I just want to emphasize that. I am grateful that we have seen some level of the legislature addressing tax reform. I'm not sure how much that will equate to. I think we all just got to get our tax bills and we'll really have a much better sense then of specifically what that means. To me, I think they started the conversation. I don't think that conversation is over by any stretch of the imagination. I think a lot of work still needs to be done in that arena. And in my mind, I don't care how you slice and dice it until there are some new forms of revenue. property taxes are the workhorse for our county, city, and schools. And it's pretty hard to fund at this point with just that as the tool. And I am following the Montana Chamber of Commerce is making some really interesting statements about the need for a more diverse tax base. So I think there's a lot more conversations to be had, but we're finally starting to move forward. So that's a good thing. Other thoughts, I hear a lot about, well, it's city council's role to change the budget, to amend it, to do a lot of stuff to it. And that way we have justified our existence as city councilors. With the complexity of this budget, I think the mayor and staff do a really delicate dance of balancing our priorities with, frankly, an insufficient revenue stream and keeping our city departments running without having to make significant cuts. So first of all, I think council is far more big picture. Staff and the executive branch really drill down and figure out how to make this budget work. But as far as I'm concerned, if my priorities that I feel really strong about are in the budget, then I don't need to bring a bunch of amendments to the floor. And I've heard criticism about that in the past, so I just want to address that. My priorities this year, as I really looked at everything, was number one, although it is a very small amount, having $100,000 going into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, because it is a marker that we value that program, that we're going to continue to look for funding, and this is its lifeline when we're in between funding sources. The other two items that I felt very strongly about, and I was really glad to see in the budget, so I did not need to push further, but the houseless operations specialist and the property engagement specialist. And that is to really continue to support our housing first model with our unhoused population in Missoula, and really continue to give juice to the housing sprint and get folks housed. So I was really glad to see those in there. Thank you, Mayor Davis and staff, for making sure we could accommodate that. So I appreciate that. And I just want to point out that sometimes the city councilor has to do the work early on in the spring, in the late winter and spring, and be communicating with staff. And that, I think, is a very effective way of making sure that priorities are met across the board. And then finally, I want to note that every year there are amendments. Some pass, some don't. This year, we didn't really have any amendments that passed. I think we kept it at the 3.5%, which is the prudent thing to do. But I do see it as our responsibility as city councilors to pass the budget. And whatever comes out of those amendments, up or down, I still see it in the long run as our responsibility to pass the budget. And our system of democracy works on trust and collaboration. And at some point, even if you don't agree with some of the things in the budget, I think you still need to vote yes on the budget. And we've had folks in the last few years who vote no on the budget. I understand why. But if you're basically aligned values-wise with the mayor and the majority of councilors, I think it's very important to not have a protest vote, but to vote yes on the budget. So I just am putting that out there because that's the way I see democracy working. We have plenty of chaos in our world. I think at a local level, we have an obligation to vote the budget through and keep our first responders out there and keep our services provided to folks. And when people don't vote yes on the budget, I really looked at that hard, because I just think this is sometimes council needs to get out of the way. This is a good budget. We've got it to this point. So I encourage everyone to vote yes on this tonight. And thanks for a really good budget, Mayor.
You're very welcome. It's our pleasure, and thank you so much for recognizing the hard work of our staff to get to this point, both in terms of the savings that we had for fiscal year 25, which carry forward into the fund balance, but also the work in front of the budget this year. So very much appreciate your remarks. Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Vasika.
Thank you. And I also wanted to thank city staff and especially Dale for answering all of my questions at the the wee hours of the meeting. And I wanted to really thank Mayor Davis for taking all of my concerns about the budget very seriously. So really, I thank you a lot for all of your meetings and all of your conversations with me. Into this meeting tonight, I was really unsure on how I was going to vote on the budget. On one hand, the city property taxpayers are struggling, and the majority of those taxpayers do not get cost of living adjustment increases every year. But I don't want to punish city employees for quote unquote equity. So this is a year where I will be in support of the budget, even though I'm not entirely happily doing so, because that means increasing property taxes for all of our citizens. But like every year, I do go through the budget and talk with the mayor, and I present my amendments. And this year, it was difficult. I could not find hardly anything to cut. This is a good budget, and I really applaud the work that was done. I still do carry the belief that we can have, I guess, quote unquote, affordable housing if we don't make it impossibly expensive to build in the city. These high fees translate to higher rents and higher property taxes, and as well as higher property prices. And I've seen firsthand from both the government side and the builder side how expensive it is to build new housing, especially in Missoula County. And it's not just the CPDI fees that I'm concerned about. I'm also concerned about average families renting pavilions in the parks, going to swim lessons, or even adding penalties under the Public Works and Mobility fee schedule, among all the other increases. I guess I am open to changing my mind about it. I'm just not quite there yet with the presentation that we had a couple of weeks ago, or was it months ago, how we are not how we're subsidizing the players that are using the pay to play method. We're subsidizing a lot of those fee costs. So I am open to changing my mind about it. I'm not quite there yet. But while I am going to be in support of the budget, I'm not going to be in support of increasing the fees. And I guess that's I'm changing my mind slowly but surely. I think this is an off year for me, so I really do applaud the work that was done. And thank you, Mayor, and all of city staff for all the hard work you did.
Thank you very much, Councilor Vasika. Your endorsement means a lot in terms of a budget that you believe is workable for our community. I appreciate your comments very much. Thank you. Councilor Campbell?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you specifically on the work we've done on the budget this year. I think between you and your staff, Dale, and the rest of the staff of the city, it's apparent to me. I mean, you've really dug deep to try to come up with an answer here that fits with the economic situation that we're in here in Missoula and inflation, and trying to be mindful of impacts on taxpayers, and that balance between what it is that we're going to take a vote here in a little bit to demand from taxpayers versus the services and the personnel and infrastructure that's provided to them. I appreciate we're keeping at or below the rate of inflation this year for a budget increase. I appreciate also that, we're trying to combat that structural deficit that, is out there and looming, and that we're addressing that to some degree. As you tell from my comments for quite some time, I've been really hung up on this part about the budget being funded, particularly, the fund balance, being propped up by remittance, MRA remittance, our continued use of MRA remittance. And this goes back, I'm looking back 5 fiscal years. I see 5 times that the city's opted to use remittance as part of its budget process. And I don't see anything in our trajectory about how we're doing business as a city that says we're not going to do it in the future. But we've just heard from Dale, and I've talked to staff, and going forward, this is not sustainable. I mean, it's almost it's a law of physics. I mean, anyway, the uncommitted money keeps going down, but we keep demanding more from it. And there's going to come a crash point at some point in the near future. I mean, I could see it on the horizon with the way we're going, with the way we're using remittance to, fund city operations at the level that we think we need to provide them. And I think, at some point in the near future, we're going to have a really serious conversation about, what services we provide and personnel or whatnot. And I could tell you, having lived that experience myself, I lived, through a layoff as a city employee. Yes, city employees get laid off. I'm living proof of that because I've had that happen to me quite a number of years ago. For me, it was not too big a letdown. It was a shock. It came all of a sudden. We had a city manager that was unwilling to make necessary cuts during a recession. They fired him, brought in somebody else, and he cleaned house within the city very quickly. And he didn't have any personal attachments. But yeah, I was single at the time. I had a car payment. I didn't have a mortgage payment. I know people that are laid off alongside me in the planning department that had families. One had just bought a house. One just had a new kid. And it definitely had an impact on that family's life. So, I'm not impersonal to it. I'm not, I guess I would say, I'm aware of the implications of what it means to do, personnel reductions or, service reductions to a city. And, I think, here I am, fast forward 30 years later, and, I think we have a city here that's going to be forced to make some of those big, hard decisions. And I just wonder if we have the wherewithal and courage to make the decisions that we need to make if something doesn't change in the trajectory, if something doesn't change with the legislature, if something doesn't change with property taxes or some other change. I just see the trajectory we're going as, an inevitability of, coming to a reconciling with how we do business here at the city. All of that said, I am going to be in support of this year's budget. I think a serious conversation needs to be had. I mean, starting today, starting tomorrow, on, how we go forth running a city without having to use a, ever shrinking supply of MRA money that, that's supposed to go in, I'm one of the more conservative ones when it comes to MRA expenditure in the first place. I've turned down some legitimate MRA expenditures, Southgate Triangle being one of them. Very legitimate purchase, but I wasn't for it because I have a philosophical problem with it. But we keep going down this path, we're going to have less and less opportunity to do those types of redevelopment things. We're going to have less and less opportunity to leverage for Riverfront Triangle, to leverage for Southgate Triangle, to leverage for whatever it is we want to do for redevelopment of the city, without having a major conversation about reconciling, how every department in the city does business, and what we could afford to give those departments as budget, what we could afford to give those departments in terms of personnel, and shift things accordingly. But I think for the here and now, I think a case has been made that it does diminish our structural deficit. I think folks will see a modest property tax reduction from what I've seen. I know State Department of Commerce has recently done a presentation, in fact, here in town. I had a chance to attend it, and the projection for city of Missoula with property tax reduction is rather modest compared to some other Class 1 cities. But there is something just because of what the legislature was able to accomplish in terms of, homestead or primary residence tax relief. So thankful that happens. Hopefully we get, a tax code that makes sense going forward. The things it brought out there is, we live in a tax code structure that was born in the 1960s, was born of, our resource-oriented industry, logging, mining, and we've shifted course so much in this state as to what we are today with technology and service and tourism and everything else, that we don't have a tax system that's well adjusted. For 2025, it's more like 1965. But for now, I'll be in support of this. Just, I just hope, staff and the mayor and everyone just, keenly aware of, my concern of, where we're going and, how sustainable, from here on out, this course of action we choose to take is in the long term.
Thank you, Counselor Campbell. Thanks for your thoughtful comments. And I want to acknowledge that I hear you loud and clear about the challenge with reliance on remittance from the redevelopment agency. And I too want to make sure that our districts have the resources to continue with economic development and infrastructure investment. And so we're going to continue to work hard on that. So I'm looking forward to working with you on that. Thank you. Counselor Becerra.
Thank you. I appreciate Council President Cheryl mentioning that this is a process that started a few months ago, and we've been addressing different parts of the budget for quite a few weeks now. It's a lengthy process to cover what I think it's a very lean budget this year. I really appreciate the efforts and thoughtfulness of both our mayor and staff when putting together this budget. I think this is a budget that continues to reflect the needs of our community and the commitment of the city to provide services to our community. And that is not an easy thing to do. I think, trying to balance those two aspects of the budget is really challenging. I do think this budget addresses the concerns that I hear from my constituents, and because of that, I will be in support of it. Thank you.
Okay. Very much appreciate that. Thank you, Counselor Becerra. Counselor Nugent.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. First of all, I want to commend you. I think that, on the campaign trail a couple of years ago, we talked a lot about the need to get in and look at the budget and dig in. And I talked a lot about, it takes more than a year, because this is really your first budget, in my opinion, as far as being on the job and kind of being able to help pull all the levers. And to be able to bring it in kind of right in line with the rate of inflation, I think is great in everything that's going on today. And that includes, negotiations with the police union and a lot of other big things that we had to address. So I think that should be commended. I also think that it's important that the residents of the community understand that their property tax bill has many parts. And so when we talk about a percentage as it relates to your tax bill, we're only talking about the city of Missoula's part of your property tax bill. And a lot of times I'll see public comments that like to take whatever percentage the city has and whatever percentage they think the school district has and whatever percentage they think the county has, and like add them all together and say their whole tax bill is going up that percentage. And that's not how it works. So I want to just make sure that people understand that. I know that everybody listens to my comments on council and takes it to heart. I do think, and I will be supporting this budget, I do kind of want to put a little bit of a word of caution out there as we move forward. Like, the work's not done. And, the things that Councilor Campbell highlighted and others have highlighted are there, and our expenses are only going to continue to go up in certain areas. So, continuing to look for efficiencies, and as the public kind of looking for what are our priorities, and what are we okay saying, well, we've invested more in this in the past, but maybe things have shifted. And, one area that I am concerned about is fees, and I recognize where we are right now and where we are in this budget. So, I think that's fine for now, but I think sometimes we get studies and we look at fees and we see room and capacity and we throw around words like subsidizing, but then there are other things the city does that we don't worry about subsidizing at all. And some of our fees, like I'll take some of our park user fees. I worry that if we continue to raise them, the people we want to use the parks aren't going to be able to afford to use the parks. And I look at some of the costs to do like a field rental and things like that. And I don't care what any study says on what capacity is and what those should be. At some point, if the residents can't afford those fees, then Missoula is not going to be the community that we want it to be. So I think that over the next year, that's something I'm going to pay a lot of attention to. Sorry, Dale and Eric, and everybody else. But I think that's important for us to kind of keep in mind that the work never stops. But again, thank you, Mayor, for a good budget, and thank you for taking our feedback all year. You've been very collaborative and very open to any communication that I know any of us gave you on that front, and several ideas that I've heard discussed have been worked into this budget, and I think that's a sign of a good leader. So thank you.
I really appreciate your comments. Thank you. And on the fees, look forward to that continued conversation as well. I couldn't agree more. The work is not done. It's constant. And this is the second time that the executive budget has been presented at the end of the process. And I do think that that has enabled us as well to have continued conversations and making sure that we are hearing your feedback and ideas, and I think it's been a really useful process. So thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for the supportive comments. Again, I want to give staff of the city of Missoula a lot of credit for the hard work that they have done and will continue to do as they figure out how to deliver great services to our community, and sometimes without being able to grow the part of the budget they might have wanted to. And so we're continuing to iterate all the time and looking forward to more. So with that, looks like we're wrapped up with council comments. And so we have a number of motions that have already been read on the floor, which is why the public hearing's open. However, we do want to be able to read the full motions into the record. So President Cheryl will do that. We'll start with item 5.1. I did want to ask just for City Attorney Sudbury or Ms. Trimble, do we want to take each resolution separately? So we've got item 5.1, and some of these have, in this particular one, we've got one recommended motion. But then item 5.2 will have 3 recommended motions. Thoughts about how we want to take these votes? Sorry, I didn't ask this earlier when we were reviewing this.
I think my recommendation would be to vote on each item separately, and you can announce them together as a package, but vote on them separately on the off chance that somebody doesn't want to vote for one of them, but would vote for the rest of them. I think allowing each to be have its up or down vote makes the most sense.
Okay, that sounds great. So each item meaning like 5.1, 5.2, but the recommended motions can go within each of the items? Or should we do those separate votes?
I would recommend that we read 5.1, we vote on that, and then we read all of 5.2, but we vote on the recommended motions separately after I've read all of them. And then the same for anyone that has the other.
Okay, that
Yeah,
sounds
that jives with my preference, so that works out.
great. All right, that sounds great for me too. All right, well, let's start with item 5.1. Ms. Trimble is going to put the recommended motion on the screen because, as noted, this was updated relatively recently, and without breaking the agenda online, we weren't able to update the agenda online, so it is on your screen. And so, President
Yeah.
Cheryl?
It's not the motion. The motion is the same as what President Cheryl has in front of her.
Oh,
I
thank
was just going to put the text of the updated resolution. They're minor tweaks. These are the numbers that change minute to minute. I literally got these at 5:50 or 5:33 this evening. So this is on the screen is the most up-to-date version of the kind of overall budget that you guys will be voting on. They're small changes, but every time we make a change, it gets accounted for in this document.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. All right, we're ready for item 5.1.
Here we go. I recommend a resolution fixing the annual appropriations in the capital improvement program for the city of Missoula as set forth in the fiscal year 2026 budget and capital improvement program, including the Park District 1 work plan and budget for fiscal year 2026, the Road District 1 work plan and budget for fiscal year 2026, the Tourism Business Improvement District work plan and budget for fiscal year 2026, the Business Improvement District work plan and budget for fiscal year 2026, the Permissive Medical Levy, Employee Health Insurance Levy for the fiscal year 2026, the Missoula Local Government Building Special District work plan and budget for fiscal year 2026.
Okay, thank you very much. So full recommended motion has been read for the record. This is item 5.1. And Ms. Trimble, we will do a roll call vote on this item when you are ready.
Yeah, I believe that everyone is now in attendance except for Ms. Jordan. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, just want to make sure I got everybody. All right, beginning our vote on item 5.1, the annual appropriations and capital improvement program, beginning with Anderson.
Yes.
Becerra.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Carlino.
Yes.
Farmer.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Melson.
Yes.
Nugent.
Yes.
Savage.
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
And Vasika.
Yes.
That item passes 11 in favor, none opposed.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. On to item 5.2.
Okay, 5.2, and we're not going to be doing the last recommended motion that we have listed,
That
just
is-
as a notation.
Yes,
But I'll-
thank you.
I'll read the other three. I recommend that we adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Missoula, Montana, levying and assessing the lots and parcels within the City of Missoula Park District 1 in the amount of 11,000 would be nice, 11,080,651 for the costs associated with providing certain maintenance, purchasing, and improvement services in fiscal year 2026 for the city-owned facilities, land, and equipment under the responsibility and care of the City of Missoula Parks and Recreation Department, providing for a method of assessments, and providing for other matters properly related thereto. I also recommend we adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Missoula, Montana, levying and assessing the lots and parcels within the City of Missoula Road District Number 1 in the amount of $11,287,242 for the costs associated with providing certain maintenance, purchasing, and improvement services in fiscal year 2026 for the city-owned facilities, land, and equipment under the responsibility and care of the City of Missoula Public Works and Mobility Department, Street Division, Cemetery and Engineering Division, Central Services Fleet Maintenance Division, providing for a method of assessments, and providing for other matters properly related thereto. And lastly, I recommend we adopt a resolution levying annual assessments on the hotels located in the Tourism Business Improvement District of the City of Missoula for fiscal year 2026 in the amount of $4 per occupied room in accordance with 7-12-1132 MCA.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much, Counselor Cheryl. So we'll take each of these motions separately, Ms. Trimble, voting on each of these three motions separately.
All right, beginning with, we're in item 5.2, our budget resolutions levying assessments, beginning with Park District Number 1. Becerra.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Carlino.
Yes.
Farmer.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Nugent.
Yes.
Savage.
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Sika.
Yes.
And Anderson.
Yes.
And that passes 11 in favor, none opposed.
Thank you.
Next item, under 5.2, we're voting on Road District Number 1, beginning with Campbell.
Yes.
Carlino.
Yes.
Farmer.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Nugent.
Yes.
Savage.
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Vasika.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
And Becerra.
Yes.
That also passes 11 in favor, none opposed.
Thank you.
Next item, under 5.2, voting on the Tourism Business Improvement District room fee, beginning with Carlino.
Yes.
Farmer,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Nugent,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
and Campbell.
Yes.
That item also passes 11 in favor, none opposed.
All right. Thank you. Now item 5.3.
Okay, and I'm going to go through all of them again. I recommend that we adopt a resolution of the City of Missoula adopting the Park and Recreation Master Fee Schedule effective January 1st, 2026. I also recommend that we adopt a resolution of the City of Missoula City Council, I think I read the last one wrong, adopting the Public Works Fee Schedule effective January 1st, 2026. I also recommend we adopt a resolution of the Missoula City Council adopting business licensing, land use and planning fees effective January 1st, 2026. I also recommend we adopt a resolution of the Missoula City Council increasing the fire fee schedule effective January 1, 2026.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll hear these motions separately.
All right, beginning our votes on item 5.3 with the Parks and Recreation Master Fee Schedule, beginning with Farmer,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Nugent,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Sika,
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
and Carlino.
Yes.
That passes with 10 in favor, 1 opposed.
Thank you.
Next item, under 5.3, is the Public Works Fee Schedule, beginning with Jones,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Nugent,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
No.
Henderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Carlino,
Yes.
and Farmer.
Yes.
And that item passes with 10 in favor, 1 opposed.
Thank you.
Next item under 5.3 is voting on the business licensing, land use, and planning fee schedules. Beginning with Nelson,
Yes.
Nugent,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Carlino,
Yes.
Farmer,
Yes.
and Jones.
Yes.
That item passes with 10 in favor, 1 opposed, and concludes 5.3.
Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on to 5.4.
Excuse me. I recommend that we approve a resolution levying a special assessment and tax on the lots and pieces pieces and parcels of land situated in the Street Maintenance Division Number 1 of the City of Missoula, Montana, in the amount of 100, is this number correct here, Claire?
That's finalized, yes.
Okay, that is final, okay. 143,904.14 for the purposes of defraying the costs of street sweeping and removing garbage and recycling from streets and avenues in the district during fiscal year 2026.
All right, thank you. Take a roll call vote.
All right, voting on item 5.4, the street maintenance district number 1, beginning with Nugent.
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Masika,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Carlino,
Yes.
Farmer,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
and Nelson.
Yes.
And that item passes with 11 in favor, none opposed.
All right, thank you.
Claire, did we vote on the fire fee schedule?
Under 5.3.
5.3, the last recommended motion.
No,
I'm glad you caught
Good
that.
catch.
Thank you.
Ms. Becerra caught it, but yeah, thanks.
should we go back?
Let's do that.
All right. Voting on item 5.3, the fire fee schedule. Beginning with Savage,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Masika,
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Carlino,
Yes.
Farmer,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
and Nugent.
Yes.
And that item passes 10 in favor, 1 opposed.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I missed that. Appreciate that.
Yeah, Ms. Becerra caught that. That was a good catch. Okay, so 5.5, I recommend we approve a resolution of the Missoula City Council levying and assessing a special assessment and tax on the lots, pieces, and parcels of land situated within all special lighting districts of the city of Missoula, Montana, in the amount of $301,052.36 to defray the cost of street lighting in special lighting districts during the fiscal year 2026.
All right, we're ready for a roll call vote.
All right, voting on item 5.5, the special lighting improvement districts, beginning with Cheryl,
Yes.
Masika,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Carlino,
Yes.
Farmer,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Nugent,
Yes.
and Savage.
Yes.
And that item passes 11 in favor, none opposed.
Great, thank you.
Can we
Okay.
keep going?
Keep
Okay.
going, please. Thank you.
Okay, I recommend that we approve a resolution to transition the existing voter-approved open space stewardship levy 2018 and fire and emergency services levy 2024 to dollar-based mill levies equal to $828,018 for the open space stewardship mill levy, and $7,038,152 for the fire and emergency services levy, plus the rate of inflation provided for in section 15-10-421A MCA.
All right, thank you very much. I'll just remind folks, this is a requirement as part of the property tax statute that was passed this last session. All right, we're ready for a roll call vote.
Voting on item 5.6, the voter-approved mill levy transition, beginning with Vasika.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Becerra.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Carlino.
Yes.
Farmer.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Nugent.
Yes.
Savage.
Yes.
And Cheryl.
Yes.
That item passes 11 in favor, none opposed.
Great. Thank you. And lastly, 5.7.
Great. I recommend a resolution levying taxes for municipal and administrative purposes for the fiscal year 2026.
And starting back at the beginning, voting on item 5.7, beginning with Anderson.
Yes.
Becerra.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Carlino.
Yes.
Farmer.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Nugent.
Yes.
Savage.
Yes. Yes, excuse me.
Cheryl.
Yes.
And Vasika.
Yes.
And that item passes 11 in favor, none opposed.
Excellent. Thank you all very much. Very much appreciate the comprehensive budgeting process and your thoughtful comments. Again, thank you to city staff and but also to council members for the continued diligence on our work together to come up with a very well-functioning budget in this, I would say, tough tax climate. So thank you very much. As a reminder, we were almost all the way through the budget, although there was that additional item that we'll be bringing to you next Monday, which is the motion for the Downtown Business Improvement District. So we'll hear that on Monday night. So with that, that wraps up our public hearing on the 2026 budget. And with that, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is the consent agenda. And so Ms. Trimble will share that on screen and read that aloud here. Counselor Jones?
I will just abstain from 8.4.
Okay. Counselor Jones, would you like to separate that item so you can abstain? Should we do it that way?
Probably the best thing to do.
Okay,
Thanks.
great, you bet. All right, so starting from the beginning, we know we're going to separate item 8.4 for a separate vote.
All right, on this evening's consent agenda, we have a motion to approve accounts payable or claims for checks dated August 19th, 2025 in the amount of $1,710,465.06. We have a motion to approve separate agreements with Garden City Harvest to operate community gardens at the Marshall Ivy Street Triangle and the Corso Apartments and authorize the mayor to sign. We have a motion to approve a standard city professional services agreement with Sanbell in the total amount not to exceed $123,866.79 and the author to authorize the mayor to sign the same in regards to design and engineering services for transportation alternative projects. And finally, this evening, we have a motion to call a special meeting of the City Council and set a public hearing for 11 a.m. on September 17th, 2025, to hear the appeal of the March 5th, 2025 decision by the Historic Preservation Commission denying the permit for demolition of the Old Post Hospital at 3255 Lieutenant Moss Road.
All right, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and take a voice vote on items 8.1 to 8.3 unless, excuse me, not yet. We got public comment. Does any council member wish to separate another agenda item before we get public comment on the consent agenda? Okay. Public comment on the consent agenda this evening. Anybody here in the room wish to make public comment? Okay. And how about online? Matt Larson, I see that your hand is raised. Would you like to comment on the consent agenda?
Yes, thank you. Matt Larson, Ward 3. I've been actually trying to comment on the last few budget items. I've had my hand raised, and I've also been bounced out of the meeting once. I'm wondering how it's possible that you guys don't do public comment, first of all, for these public hearings and take a vote before public comment. And then I'm also wondering about some of the costs on the consent agenda. Western Excavating for $200K, J&J Excavating for $350K, roughly. And then Klaus Property LLC for $60,000. It seems to be a real estate acquisition or a lease tied to wastewater, but I want some clarity on that. Central House Strategies for $5,000. I just wanted to see what's actually been done by Central House Strategies on behalf of us in the state legislature, which maybe isn't so receptive to this particular lobbyist. And then let's see here. The nearly $10,000 of police weapons that are being purchased and the non-departmental nearly $5,000 narcotics safe. Just wondering what department that goes under or if that's all the department's narcotics. And then the, I guess a big one is the nearly $10,000 for new weapons. What kind of new weapons? Are these rocket launchers? Just wondering. And then, the $35,000 for tree fellas restoration for forestry work. I'm pretty sure we have arborists at the city, but I think we've brought up this numerous times about how hiring an arborist might save the city a lot of money. There's Missoula County Public Schools for nearly $6,000 for gym rentals. Wondering what that's about. And then Northwestern Energy, $50,000. Multiple Lumen and Verizon contracts in the $3,000 to $8,000 range. What kind of service is this? Like I've heard of $600 cell phone bills, but the metrics associated with it are kind of staggering, considering there's multiple of them. And then. Yeah, I mean, totaling $15,000 for the police department and weapons. This item alone, and then I also want to know why my Ward 3 counselor is abstaining from the vote. She's mentioned that she would wish to abstain from it, but what is the reason?
Mr. Larson, thank you for your comments, and when it is time to vote on that item, I no doubt will hear from the counselor on why she is abstaining. And I will go ahead and address your comment about public comments taken on the budget. We did open up this public hearing on August 4th. We've taken public comment now for 3 Monday evenings and 2 Wednesdays, but including this evening, when we opened up this item, there was public comment for this agenda item. I'm sorry that you joined the meeting late and didn't have a chance to do that, but we did open it up for public comment at that time. Okay, looks like we've taken public comment on the consent agenda for items, all items. However, we will take a voice vote on the first 3, 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3.
All right, voting on the first three items of the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 And any opposed? Those pass unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. And now we'll go ahead and we will do a roll call vote for item 8.4. Counselor Jones, do you wish to speak to your abstention?
Sure, I'm going to abstain from the vote on this because I will not be voting on anything involving this issue. I have a close relative who is very involved in the administration out at Fort Missoula. So the perception is that that's too close for comfort, so I will not be involved in any of this, and I get to go do other fun things while you all hear it this September.
Thank you very much for your clarification. Thank you. And with that, we'll do a voice vote for not a voice vote, a roll call vote for item 8.4, please.
Okay, voting on item 8.4, calling a special meeting for the city council to set a public hearing on September 17th to hear the Old Post Hospital demolition appeal, beginning with Becerra.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Merlino.
Yes.
Farmer.
Yes. Yes.
Jones.
Abstain.
Nelson.
Yes.
Nugent.
Yes.
Savage.
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Masika.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
And that item passes with 10 in favor, 1 abstaining.
Okay, thank you very much. That does wrap up the consent agenda. We have no regular business under committee business this evening, and so we will move right to public comment on non-agenda items. Anybody in the room here tonight wishing to make public comment on non-agenda items? If so, come on up now.
Bob Moore. It's interesting to sit there in the whatever you used to call it, and go on and on and on about we got to tighten our, somebody short, got to tighten up. But then turn around and vote for this budget. I don't understand. God, I wish I could understand. Another thing I get so upset about is we blame our budget problems on the state. Totally 1,000% false. The reason our budget is like it is we're wasting money on things we don't need. For example, we didn't need to give the owners of the shopping mall $10 million. We didn't need to give the big banks $5 million, if my memory's correct. We didn't need to build a pedestrian bridge that is basically not used. I try to watch and see them every time I go by there. I might see one person a week making use of the pedestrian bridge. Y'all proud of the pedestrian bridge? I didn't have anything to do this afternoon. I started reading the minute agenda of the MRA. I suspect most of y'all know my thoughts on the MRA. I'll tell you if you don't know. Here is some agenda meetings. Urban District, Scott Street, adjacent to Scott Street. Total bond issuance for Rivera, I think it's right. Infrastructure is $4,064,700. Next sentence is total bond issuance for Rivera Workforce Housing Assistance, park acquisition, Prior planning and insurance costs, $5,735,000. Don't worry about it, we got plenty. Just to prove it. My recommendation here is you, as the city council, stop the MOA from wasting our money. $9,800,000.
Thank you for your comments this evening, Mr. Moore. Any other public comments on non-agenda items? Come on up.
Hello. It's probably city council's worst nightmare to see someone show up with a big pile of folders and papers, but I promise I'll be really quick. My name is Jackson. I'm in Ward 1, and I'm also here as a member of the Missoula Tenants Union, but more importantly tonight as a member of Missoula's Tenants' Right to Counsel Coalition, which I think some of you have maybe heard of. Our Right to Counsel Coalition for Tenants, which is made up of the Tenants Union and Montana Legal Services, Partnership Health, Front Step Community Land Trust, along with many other groups in town, are working to ensure that anytime a tenant is faced with an eviction in Missoula County or city, that they would be assigned an attorney to guide them through that process. So our program is ready for implementation. It's administered and approved by the Legal Aid Office in Montana. And I think it ultimately represents an opportunity for the city and the county to save a lot of money by preventing unnecessary evictions and homelessness. So to give a little background, we've met with Mayor Davis and with Councilmember Jones and with Ryan Sudbury, the city attorney. We've met with county commissioners rather. So I want to thank you for meeting with us and having those discussions. Your perspective was really helpful. There's also others of you on council who maybe have encountered tenants' right to counsel in some candidate forums or in questionnaires. So I want to come up tonight simply to hopefully pass around these binders, which are full of literature and contact information and letters from your constituents that I hope can provide a little more information about our efforts to ensure a tenants' right to counsel in Missoula. Tenants' right to counsel, I think, is currently a little bit of a hot topic, so I want you all to be prepared for those discussions, but ultimately we also need your help to make this program a reality. We need your institutional support to get the program going so that we can see some of the benefits of a right to counsel, which in other cities and states will result in like a 300% on average return on investment in the program, results in reduced levels of homelessness, increased housing stability. The list kind of goes on. But just to wrap up, Bozeman is set to implement a tenants' right to counsel this fall, and the Missoula Public Health Department has listed tenants' right to counsel as a priority recently. So especially on a night like tonight, where we've been talking about budget crunch and lack of funds, I think it's really important to look towards more creative programs like tenants' right to counsel that can maybe put money back into the city budget and reduce spending on other services. So yeah, thank you for your comments. And again, thank you, Mayor Davis and Councilmember Jones for your time in talking about that before. I don't know if there's like a
You bet, the officer in the back? Yeah, thank you, Jackson. You bet.
You can hand these out. I've got some extras for the council members who weren't here.
Okay, wonderful. We'll make sure that all
It
council
should
members
go
get
in order.
those. Okay. All right. I think you can go ahead and wait till after the meeting. I appreciate you seeking clarification. Thank you very much. We will make sure that council members get those. Thank you, Jackson. All right, other members of the public wishing to make comment on items not on the agenda. Okay, I'm not seeing any in the room. How about online? I do see a couple of hands raised. Mr. Larson.
Yes, thanks. Matt Swarson, Ward 3. I would just like to get more transparency from the city. I think we heard the first public comment, and we hear quite often about MRA, and I believe it was this mayoral administration that's appointed 2 members, or at least 1 member from the city council to oversee the MRA's process. And the TIF spending that MRA is particularly utilizing isn't all it's cracked up to be. How do we know? Because our taxes are being raised consistently, and the metric, if you ask any of your city councilors or current governor representatives, in Missoula, government representatives, they'll say that as the city grows, they must increase taxes for everyone, which is the reverse of a balanced budget. Right now, our debt services are over 15% per year. That's insane. And I wish that we could hear more about the debt services and about the things we're currently paying for that are already in use or have already been put to pasture. As far as other items not on the agenda, I think the city's data retention policies should be looked at, especially for its open information or public information. I've requested a key to it delivered electronically via an API. This costs the city nothing. They refuse at both the city and county to do this, which allows accessibility to disabled citizens such as myself, as well as others. This is shameful, and it's all public information that can be accessed in a read-only format that the city controls. And I've also asked for it on a hard drive, and the city has also denied that. The county has granted that request, which is lawful. And now the city will be going to, the city will be going to judicial review in a case filed by me. These are special proceedings which get resolved in weeks or days as opposed to months. And I just wanted to give the city an update.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Larson. Carrie Schreiber, you're up. Ms. Schreiber, we're ready to hear your public comment, if you can unmute from your side.
Oh, I was already talking. Thank you for taking my comment, Madam Mayor and City Council folks. Thank you for your work. Playing off the themes from Mr. Matz and Mr. Moore asking for transparency with our TIF funding, MRA. We also need more information about Missoula Economic Partnership. I see that they're going to be spearheading the sell-off of the 50 acres of city land, and I know that MRA funds them in part. So we, the people, are funding them in part. We don't know who their other funders are, and that seems really important for transparency. And I would also like to know the philosophy that they're working with, the economic philosophy that is leading them to make the choices that they're making. When Mr. Kier was speaking at the Averill Hospitality hearing, he was giving comment, as were a number of city council members, that Mr. Carlino's thoughts of using local developers and builders and bringing in businesses that provide living wage jobs could be used to guide future decisions. And we get that in process before these 50 acres are sold off. Yeah, I've asked for this information from other avenues, and it hasn't gotten back to me, and it seems more and more pertinent that we have that. In Butte, my understanding is that when they're selling off city properties, that the developers provide some sort of a general idea. I'm sorry, my words are failing me a little bit here, of what their plans would be, and then the public is able to give input, and that informs choosing which developer to use. And in this case with Southgate Crossing, MEP had 26 developers to choose from, and I was told by the surveyor who he was working for, and that is an out-of-state investment company. I'd really hate to see the rest of these 50 acres go to outside interests like that. MEP was formed shortly before the Southgate Mall TIF financing, and then the Southgate Mall was sold to an out-of-state investor immediately. I think we need more information about their objectives, their philosophy, and I would love to see more public input in the process of choosing developers. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments this evening, Ms. Schreiber. And Derek Goldman, you're up. We're ready to hear your comment.
I'm still unmuted.
Yeah. Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, there's a delay between when you call and when my mic gets unmuted. But Derek Goldman, Ward 4. I had a suggestion and a comment, also related to MRA, but more related to the exchange back a while ago between Dale and council member Campbell. Sorry. With respect to the remittances, I appreciate that previous mayors and you, Mayor Davis, have done the remittances to help backfill the budget to avoid raising more taxes on the public. It's clear, and Mr. Moore is right. I've been around local government for 20 years, and we've heard for most of that time from Mayor Engen, from going back to President von Lossberg, that the tax increment financing investments are investments that will pay back and obviate the need to raise taxes. But we know that that revenue goes back to the MRA and doesn't go to the general fund, so I do appreciate the remittances. I have the opposite view of Councilmember Campbell, where I don't think that district revenue is ever shrinking pie. I think it's getting bigger and bigger as we do more development projects in the URDs. And so one suggestion I have moving forward, and this would be particularly relevant for the Riverfront Triangle too, because it's such a big project, and it might obviate the need to do the remittances and have these discussions all the time. And my suggestion is a revenue sharing agreement between MRA and the city, so that we'll know when we have these big projects like the Riverfront Triangle or the Merc or whatever it is, that the city will be getting some of that revenue into the general fund so that the entire city can benefit from the development, and that MRA and the whatever urban renewal district it is, can have some of the revenue as well. But I'd urge you to consider moving forward revenue sharing agreements, because it's clear that the remittances are kind of a stopgap thing, and it's kind of evidence that the system isn't really working. So that's my suggestion. Thank you very much, and thanks, Dale, for the excellent presentation on the budget.
All right, Mr. Goldman, thank you very much for your comments this evening. Any other members of the public online wishing to make comment on items not on the agenda? Okay. Not seeing any hands raised, then that does wrap up our public comment this evening. Thank you very much for coming down and providing comment, those that are on the phone. Real quickly, I'll just, again, thank our team of folks at across all departments at the city, and Dale, thank you for your incredibly hard work through the year as we've been focused on delivering an efficient, transparent, and effective budget for fiscal year 26. I want to thank the city council members for your partnership and support throughout this process, and I look forward to continuing to work with you on this knot that we are untying together. So really glad to move forward into 2026 or fiscal year 2026. I did want to just mention you're seeing a speed zone conversation and decision on Wednesday, and it's related to the area of Lowell School. And there have been some increasing conflicts in that area, so I'm looking forward to our public works staff being able to talk with you about some solutions. And I know there's several council members here that have been working with staff to identify different solutions. The roundabout that is being constructed at the bottom of Scott Street Bridge at the intersection of Phillips and Scott is almost near completion. We're really thrilled about that, and it should be open in time for school. So we're really appreciative of the neighborhood in that area, and we realize the pressure that puts on available or creates more congestion and available routes through that area. We did have a compressed construction schedule in order to not impede the school schedule, and so I appreciate the neighborhood's understanding and work with us on that. And then I just wanted to acknowledge and congratulate Opportunity Resources and Mike Boucher, Jen Clary, and others on Opportunity Place. This is a property, it's 24 affordable, deed-restricted affordable apartments that are being constructed on 3rd and Ash, in addition to some commercial space that will provide art and studio space for folks that work with Opportunity Resources, and some additional commercial space that will be available for the public to rent. That's going to be incredible. That's, of course, where their old wood products program was located for many decades, and they have moved that to a different location, and it's now evolving into affordable apartments that will be affordable for decades to come, because this is financed through the housing tax credit program. And not only did the city and its taxpayers invest in the infrastructure that's necessary, when we fund projects like this, we also fund the deconstruction of buildings. So we avoid throwing good quality products into the landfill and do as much recycling or repurposing as possible. So the buildings were dismantled and deconstructed. And then we invested not only in the infrastructure, but we invested in the actual bricks and mortar itself. So the Missoula Redevelopment Agency was able to contribute some dollars into the workforce housing element, into the capital stack, as we say, one of the funding sources into that project. So thank you all for that support, and thank you to the members of the public for your continued contribution into excellent projects like Opportunity Place. All right, that wraps up my comments this evening, and I'll go ahead and start with folks in the room. And I know that Councillor Jordan is absent, so I'll start with you, Councillor Melson.
I'll pass tonight, thanks.
You bet. And Councillor
I'm going to
Sherrill.
pass as well.
All right.
I'll
Councillor
pass
Becerra.
as well. Thank you.
Okay, all right. And Councillor, I was gonna go to Councillor Anderson, but I'm gonna stick with folks in the room. Savage.
I just wanted to briefly just say a thank you to our public works staff and to the people of the north side. It has been a bit of a hard summer over there. We're a little bit blocked in, a little bit hard to get out some days. And a lot of this infrastructure, I think, is needed, and we're so grateful for it. And so I think that there's actually been a lot of deep patience by Northsiders, because they understand the importance and the relevance of having the roundabout, and understand why Scott Street is closed, also understand why North First Street is closed. And so, but I just wanted to also say thank you to staff, because they have fielded a lot of emails, a lot of concerns from residents. And so it takes a little bit of extra patience to do that, especially when we're working on compressed schedules. So yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Savage. Councillor Nugent.
I will pass tonight, thanks.
All right, you bet. And Councillor Campbell.
I'll pass as well, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Farmer.
Thanks. I'll just echo what Ms. Savage said. I agree. Living on the west side, I expected to get a lot more angry neighbors than I did receive, as some people's mirrors were being clipped off by buses and et cetera. So we have definitely spent a summer of construction. But I also just wanted to mention, school starts back up next week. And so for a lot of us who are driving in the morning, it's going to get a little more congested. So just friendly reminder, everyone, there's more buses, there's more kids. Give yourself more time. Even though there's a lot of construction, try not to be aggro, and give kids space they need. So friendly reminder to everyone.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you. Councillor Jones.
I will pass. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And how about council members online? Anybody wanting to share some comments this evening? Councillor Vasika, please.
Thanks. Yeah, I had two things I wanted to say tonight. I was only going to say one, but a public commenter brought something up. There was a public commenter, Mr. Moore, and I completely agree with him. We should not be blaming the state for our property tax increases. I've said it multiple times, and I'll say it again. It is our fault, the Missoula City Council's. We're the ones who set the budget. It's not the state. It's not even the mayor, because the mayor presents the budget to us, and we as the city council propose amendments, we vote on those amendments, and then we make the ultimate decision on whether to pass the budget or not. So the state and federal government gives us parameters on which we can work with the amount of taxes that we can levy from the properties within the city, and we need to work within those parameters. So I agree with that public commenter. Thank you for bringing that up, for giving me the opportunity to bring that up again. So give your grievances about property taxes to us, the city council. That being said, I wanted to do a public service announcement. I noticed that the Missoula, Montana Airport, MSO, is going to be under construction and be closed. So I'm just going to read what their Facebook page says. MSO will be temporarily closed to fixed wing aircraft from 8 a.m. September 2nd to 3 p.m. on September 7th, 2025 for a major runway upgrade. Crews will work nonstop to repave runway 1230, update electrical systems, and enhance safety. They're also using the downtime to improve the terminal and parking areas. So unless you're flying a helicopter, all commercial airlines and even private airlines will not be able to go in from September 2nd to September 7th. So that's a long time to not have commercial flying. So I just wanted to let folks know. Thank you, and that is all.
I really appreciate you doing that. Thank you. That is a very big deal. It'll be quite an expansion, and it already is. But boy, that's a big period of time. Thank you for that. Councillor Anderson.
Yes, thanks so much, Madam Mayor. I know I'm on the flight on Sunday night, so fingers crossed it all gets in just fine. I was only going to say one thing, but now I'm going to say two things. Because as much as I respect Ms. Fasika and her views, I respectfully disagree that we are the solely to blame for the city's property tax increases. Is an incredibly complicated tax system, but it's definitely one that has, as Mr. Campbell, my ward mate, pointed out, has, our entire system of economics in the state has drastically changed, and more of the burden is being shifted upon to residential property taxes as tax cuts are being given to centrally assessed properties and business and whatnot. And it's an unsustainable trajectory that we do not have any ability to affect. And I spent a lot of time talking about various things that I think the legislature could do to give us more tools. One of them would be the ability to levy a tax on certain things utilized predominantly by tourists. That you're starting to see a lot of a conversation about sales tax. I don't think that is the answer, and neither does about 75% of Montanans. When surveyed, asked whether or not they want to support a sales tax, because I feel like it's regressive. Whereas, tourism is the #1 economic driver in the state. So we should be able to figure out a way to tax them to help offset some of the, they call 911, they use our roads, and yet they're not having to pay for it. So with that, come to my TED Talk on taxes, on property taxes. But the thing I wanted to say tonight was, I think several months ago at the beginning of the summer, both myself and Councilwoman Farmer kind of talked a little bit about fire danger and how the majority of fires are started by human causes, and intentional or unintentional. And I am sure it has not escaped anybody that we are at the 18th of August and the skies are still blue and we are still outside and able to, enjoy a beautiful Montana summer. Now, Mother Nature has been very kind to us, but she needs our help to get us through to the end of the summer, and just wanted to put a plug in because we have definitely seen an uptick in fire activity in the last week or so. There's been 24 new fires that have started in Montana in the last week, and 15 of them have started in the last 24 hours. So it is still very much fire season, and we need to remain vigilant for these last few weeks as we get into fall. But thanks to everybody for doing your part, and I hope that you will continue to do so that everyone can, really enjoy these last few weeks of summer before school starts and we all transition to fall. But just wanted to put that plug because I've definitely noticed the increase, and I'm sure folks have as well. So that's it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Counselor Anderson. And Counselor Carlino, do you have any comments this evening?
I'll pass, thanks.
Okay, absolutely, you bet. I do believe that wraps up our council comments then. And so with that, I'll go ahead and adjourn our meeting at 8:05 p.m. Thanks, everybody, for coming down. Appreciate it.